Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Awaken series. Today, we are going to be discussing grounding and its healing effects on the physical energies, mental energies, and emotional energies. All of us know what grounding is, and all of us have practiced it, and all of us have learned it, and all of us have taught it to someone. And so you might believe, as I did erroneously, that this is a subject that we really know everything about. But the truth is that we don't. And I realized how much we don't know when JadeFire began to educate me on what grounding really is. Right from the very beginning, what he said was something that took me aback. And he said, grounding is not about the connection of your physical energies to the earth. Grounding is a process where you connect the energy of your soul to the energies of the soul of the earth. And that is grounding. In that process, our soul's energies run through our physical bodies, and the physical body becomes a vehicle. The energies move through our physical bodies and enter the earth, where they connect themselves to the soul of the earth. And JadeFire says that just as all living beings, just as all living things have a soul energy, so does the earth. And he says everything that is alive, and really, earth is absolutely alive, everything that is alive has their own individual soul energy, but it also has a collective soul energy. And so also with earth. Earth has her own individual soul energy as earth, but she also has a collective soul energy, which is the soul energy of the solar system of which she is a part. For me, that was just wonderful to learn. And he goes on to say that when our bodies transmit this energy of the soul to the earth, that is only one half of the grounding process. The other half is the energy of the soul of the earth returning once again through our physical bodies, which are used as the vehicles, returning once again through our physical bodies, connecting to our soul energy. And that cycle is the complete process of grounding, not just our anchoring of our energies into the earth. So he goes on to explain this process very, very clearly. And he reminds us of an earlier Awaken series where he has explained in great detail the cosmic masculine energy and the cosmic feminine energy, where one of the things we were told, which of course we already know, is that the masculine is the giving energy and the feminine is the receiving energy. So, even in this process of grounding, the soul's energy is received by our systems, by our physical systems, by the feminine energy. The feminine energy then hands this over to the masculine energy, and the masculine energy gives this energy to the earth. When the earth is giving us her soul energy, once again, the feminine aspect of our energies receives that earth soul energy, hands it over to the masculine energy, and the masculine energy transmits or gives it back to our own soul energy. JadeFire says, this is important to understand because here what happens is something that we all need to know. And we need to know this not really from a personal point of view. We need to know this so that we can help Earth. What is this important factor that we all need to understand and know? The masculine energy is an energy that most of us on Earth use predominantly. Even those whose feminine energy is a greater proportion than their masculine energy, even those will use in daily living, they will use their masculine energy far more than they will use their feminine energy. Why? Because our life is based upon making decisions. These decisions are based upon analysis. These decisions are based upon rationale. They are based upon logic. But one thing they are based upon more strongly than on anything else, our decisions, JadeFire says, are based upon control. Instantly, some of you might think, I am not a control freak. But you don't need to be a control freak. JadeFire says the need to have control over your life decisions, over what you eat, when you shall sleep, what you shall wear, where you shall go, how you shall go to that place. All of these are decisions that need your control. All these decisions that are based on control require and use the masculine energy. Now, based upon this one factor, JadeFire says, based upon just this one factor, there are, of course, other factors that we are not discussing because this one factor is so important. Based upon this one factor of needing to have control, this masculine energy is often filled with anxiety, fear, undue worry and concern, sometimes an unhealthily overactive need to analyze everything. So there's that constant overthinking. All of these factors greatly make the masculine energy impure. All these toxins lie within the masculine energy. Now, when the feminine energy receives our own soul's energy and turns that over to the masculine energy, the masculine energy is already laden with these energies of fear and anxiety, um, could be depression, could be this need for, for logic and for analysis, all of these things that come out of control, the need for control. So when the masculine energy gives our soul energy to the earth, there is no way that the masculine energy can separate its energy from the fear and anxiety that is already within it. So the soul's energy certainly goes to the earth, but what goes to the earth is our fear, our anxiety, our rage, our need for control, and therefore our domination, our tyranny. All of this also passes into the earth. The earth knows that one of its silent tasks, one of its duties that the earth provides us with, blesses us with, is receiving these toxic energies from us. But there is this constant flow that takes place. Our soul energies receive also the energies of fear and so on. Everything is passed into the earth. The earth gives us only the purest energy of the soul of the earth. Although our energies are unable to separate the toxic energies from the pure energies, the earth is able to make this distinction. And the earth gives us only the pure energies of her soul. But JadeFire says, there comes a time when the earth is overburdened by the toxicities that you and I and everyone the world over is releasing into the earth. She gets so overburdened by the toxicities that she faces a threat of imbalance. And remember, JadeFire had told us in that lesson itself that the universe shall never permit energy imbalance to take place, because an energy imbalance would result in energetic disasters of a kind we have never faced. When the earth comes so close to this threat of getting imbalanced, all help is given to the earth by the collective soul energy. And earth is helped to release this toxicity by the use of natural elements. And therefore, we see terrible forest fires, earthquakes, tornadoes, cyclones, tsunamis. All of this takes place because somewhere the earth has to release that toxic energy. But she is our cosmic mother. She will not release these toxins into our system. It would be so easy for Earth to release those toxins back to us and say, hey, this belongs to you. But she doesn't. But somewhere, somehow, at some time, she calls upon her collective soul energy to say, help me to release. And the natural elements are used. Sometimes one element, sometimes more than one element. JadeFire says, if you and I can take responsibility for the release of our toxins, we would be able to help our dear earth. And that is why he has given us this detailed explanation of the grounding process. So he gives us an extremely simple method of partial release. And he says, at those times when you are aware that you are very anxious, or you are very fear-filled, or you are very angry, or there's any other kind of toxic emotion that you are experiencing, at those times, one, avoid a conscious process of grounding. JadeFire says there are two processes of grounding. They are exactly the same. Soul energy through the body to soul energy, back through the body to soul energy. But one process is deliberate and is conscious. The other process is a continual, non-deliberate, non-conscious release of energies, a non-conscious exchange of energies. JadeFire says, grounding is not only happening when you deliberately choose to ground yourself. Grounding continues even without your conscious awareness. Now, that part of the non-conscious process of grounding, you and I are not going to be able to control, because that is a continual process. But he says you can help the earth by choosing not to ground yourself when you are aware that your energies are filled with toxic thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Before we do this, before we deliberately choose to ground ourselves, if we are in that toxic space, then JadeFire suggests a very simple method of partial release, of partial transmutation. And he asks us to eat. Yes, eat. But he says, it's what you eat that is important. If you wish to transmute partially, we can't transmute all the toxicity. We'd need way more food than our systems would digest. But just for partial, what we eat is carbohydrates and fats. He says no other food group has the ability to even partially absorb the toxicity from our energy systems. But carbohydrates and fats have this ability. They absorb not a lot, but a fair bit of the toxicity, and they throw it out of our system. So if you are in a toxic space, please do not ground yourself before you have eaten something. It is very, very important to have carbohydrates and fats. When you have that, wait for about 45 minutes to an hour, JadeFire says, and then you can proceed with the deliberate process of grounding. This instantly made me realize that there are so many of us who, when we are emotionally charged, we run to our refrigerators. And then those carrots and cucumbers and tomatoes are not going to satisfy our urge. What we want is that chocolate or that chocolate cake or the pizza or the sandwich, or we want something fried. I was amazed that, I don't know why I was amazed, because our bodies know how to heal themselves and how to balance themselves. So even without this awareness, even without this knowledge that has come to us today, you and I have been doing that for so many years. And this was quite a wow moment for me. So the next time you go to that refrigerator, let's go to it in greater awareness. You see, that eating will not constitute emotional binging. And JadeFire brought that out for me today. He says emotional binging and its not pleasant repercussions take place when you start eating without any conscious awareness. You are doing this to deny or escape an emotion or a situation. And he says it is that denial and it is that need to escape something that you find unpleasant. It is that which causes the unpleasant repercussions of emotional binging. If you eat the very same things, it could be that chocolate cake, it could be that ice cream, it could be that piece of fried chicken, it could be anything. if you eat that, this time now in awareness that I am eating this in order to give my energy system a sponge. I am providing a sponge for my energy system so that the toxic energies that are threatening to overwhelm me right now are partially taken in by this food that I am eating. And so I am really grateful to this food. This will ensure that that food causes you no harm. I wish I had known these all these years. He then goes on to say that just as toxic energies can cause an imbalance, if our systems are overloaded by soul energies, by higher energies, there can also be that same imbalance. Now, for me, that was another really kind of moment. And he says, yes, if you meditate for long hours, or if you are doing healing work or any kind of energy work for long hours, what you will find at the end of those long hours is a slight bit of imbalance. And once again, very intuitively, your body will turn to food and water. Once again, this was a aha moment for me, because when I finish my sessions, I am so hungry that I need to have my dinner immediately. And I also remembered another point. Many years ago, when I had started channeling, JadeFire had instructed me at that time that after every channeling, I must eat at least one banana or any other fruit that had a high level of sugar in it. Today I understand why. That high level of sugar brings me in a state of balance where the excessive soul energy, which could cause the imbalance, is absorbed by the food. But because I am not in an emotionally charged space, I don't need to stuff myself with carbohydrates and fats. A sweet fruit is enough, accompanied by a glass or two of water. So this was a very, very important aspect. And he advises that if you are meditating or if you remain in a connection with higher energies for over an hour, then you must ensure that you provide yourself with a fruit or something that can substitute for the fruit and 2 glasses of water. At this point, again, he says that for those of you who are doing constant energy work, on a daily or on a very regular basis, your body provides you with more matter so that there is less and less and less chances of imbalance as you connect to your soul energies. If it has to provide you with more matter, it has to put on to you a few extra pounds. At this point, he said, when you are aware of what your body is doing for you, when you are aware that these few extra pounds your body is putting on in order to save you from the threat of imbalance, your body is putting on these few extra pounds in order to help you to connect to even higher energies for even longer periods of time. This awareness will stop you from looking at yourself and hating what you see when you see those few extra pounds. He goes on to say that the worst thing that any energy worker can do for themselves is to go on to a very severe diet where there is denial of hunger, where there is suppression of hunger, where maybe only very, very limited food items are eaten. He says, when you do this to your body, you are giving your body a very, very strong and clear signal. I do not want your help in my ascension process. But he says, when you do that, your body will listen to you at some point. But he says, be careful about the consequences, because you cannot permit either an imbalance caused by a greater volume of toxic energy or an imbalance caused by a greater volume of soul energy. So I think that's something that we have to keep in mind. Someone's asking me here, what about intermittent fasting or eating twice daily? What we do is immaterial. If you are doing intermittent fasting, but you are not denying your body's needs for food, and intermittent fasting is not that. Intermittent fasting is eating at certain times, but your body's needs are not being denied. So it's not about following a certain food plan. You can follow a food plan, but don't deny your body what it needs. And don't loathe yourself. Don't loathe your body for helping you by putting on those few extra pounds. Now JadeFire goes into the healing functions of grounding. And this was something that I really had no knowledge of. And he says, grounding is not merely to keep you stable, to keep you centered. That is just one of the various functions that it can perform. In fact, JadeFire says, grounding is very, very essential to heal your body automatically, naturally. And he goes on to give me a list of what he says are just a few things that can be healed by grounding. And he has made me write inflammation. He says any kind of inflammation anywhere in the body, whether it is inflammation on your arm, on your leg, whether it is in your organs, any kind of inflammation, muscle damage, tissue damage. It's a huge help in pain relief, in helping you to heal from cardiovascular disease, from helping you to heal from fatigue and exhaustion. It helps to eliminate sleep disorders. It helps to bring into balance mood disorders. It helps greatly to alleviate depression and anxiety. There is so much here in grounding, which I, for one, had no knowledge of. And JadeFire says, grounding has to be a daily process for this reason, so that whatever there is in your physical system, emotional system, mental system, which you are not even aware of, that can start to heal by the simple process of grounding. But he says, most of us, even when we are doing our deliberate grounding, are doing it for far too little time. He says for grounding to be a valid process, valid both for the exchange of energies and for the healing, grounding needs to be for 7 to 9 minutes at a stretch continually. Second, he says, you cannot ground yourself if you are wearing something that is synthetic upon your feet. In fact, he goes on to say that for the ideal, the optimum grounding, there should be nothing on your feet. Not even, as he says, cotton socks. It should be you and the earth. But he says, if that is not possible, then ensure that your footwear is made, he says, of cloth, and that the sole is not a synthetic material. Now, he has spoken a lot about this. In fact, he goes on to say that yoga is one of the most effective ways of grounding yourself. But he says, it has become an exercise that really doesn't ground you, because most people are using yoga mats that are made of synthetic material. And he says, use cotton, use jute, use something that is natural. But you cannot use rubber. You cannot use plastic. You cannot use nylon. You cannot use polyester. Anything that is man-made stops the exchange of energies. And he says, in your world, there is such a vast use of synthetic materials. And you and I are not going to be able to live our lives without sometimes, somewhere in the day, using those synthetic materials. But That is why he suggests the more synthetic materials you use, the longer must be the time you give yourself to ground. So he says that grounding can balance out whatever are the unpleasant effects of using synthetic material. So, for example, if you are constantly, for many hours in the day, wearing shoes that have rubber soles or some other synthetic material, then ensure that you spend a half an hour in the morning grounding, which means you can go for your walk in cotton footwear or cloth footwear. He says, even just walking in your garden in cotton socks is fine if you do it for an extended period. Another thing that he gives us, and he gives us different ways to make it simple for us. And I'm so grateful to JadeFire for that. He says, let us assume it is not possible for you to wear the appropriate footwear. Let us assume that it is not possible for you to go out and walk on the ground bare feet. Says that's fine. Bring into your home a large tub of earth. And he says, grow something in that tub. Something that will sprout. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be something that is, it could be just a little bit of grass. It could be a bit of flowers. It could be some vegetables, anything, but grow something in that tub. And keep some part of that tub without anything growing there. So it's almost like you divide the tub half where you're growing something and half where nothing's growing. But because something is growing and you are watering and you are putting it out into the sunlight, there is a constant living factor that takes place in that tub. And he says, all right, you can't go out. You can place your hands, the palms, in that tub on the earth for several minutes at a time. Now, isn't that wonderful? That can be done so easily by anyone. He says, let's assume that is not possible. Use just some good earth that you get from a place which you know is clean. Make a pack and apply that pack on the palms of your hands, on the soles of your feet. And as he says, you can do whatever you want. You can watch your television. You can sit and have a chat with your family while that earth pack is on your palms and on your feet. When it dries, wash it off. And it's done. You have still grounded yourself. You have still earthed yourself. In fact, he says, when you are ill, if there is a part of your body that is not healing well or that is not healing as quickly, or if you have sprained something or you have a fracture or a muscle has been damaged, apply an earth pack. And that bone, that muscle, that tissue, that organ will start healing. Now, isn't this simple? There are so many different ways that He has given us to ground ourselves. There is yet a further way He's given. But this is for those times when we have a half an hour, a 45 minutes to an hour, where we just want to completely replenish our energies. And he says, this you do not need to do daily. You can do this once a month, once in several weeks. But for this, he says, you have to sit directly upon the ground and not on concrete, not on tiled floors, outside, on the earth. Sit directly on the earth. Ensure that your clothing is not synthetic. Form a circle around yourself with crystals and rocks that you find outside. Rocks or stones that you find outside. Simple rocks or stones that you find outside. Mix these up with whatever crystals you have. Makes no difference what the crystals are. Make a circle, big circle around yourself. And sit in that sacred circle. If you wish, you can meditate. If you wish, you can just sit there. If you wish, you can read. If you wish, you can sit there and do some chores. That makes no difference. What you are doing is a deliberate process of grounding yourself using the sacred energy of the circle. In that 1 hour, your system and its energies are entirely replenished and transformed. You can understand how important this part of the Awaken series is. We have been given, I don't think JadeFire could have gotten more simple than this. Such simple ways to heal ourselves, to replenish our energies. The more we help others by energy work that we do, the greater is the need for us to replenish our energies. And here are such simple ways of doing this. JadeFire then goes on to say that there is an activity that you can perform on a daily basis or a weekly basis, which is both enjoyable and also extremely therapeutic, because it's an ideal way of grounding yourself. And that is gardening. He says, just tending to your garden, whether you have a garden patch or whether you have potted plants, working with the earth, allowing your hands to touch that earth. So once again, here I realized I can't possibly wear my gardening gloves because that is stopping me from touching the earth. So just getting our hands dirty with that earth is such a joyful way of grounding ourselves, of grounding our energies. And JadeFire says, when you ground your energies in a space where there is life, which means plants are growing there, the energies that you receive are even more potent because the earth is giving you life energy. She's giving you a creative force. She is nurturing your energy system. And when she is constantly being replenished by the plants that are growing in her, the energy that she can give you is even more powerful. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful fortnight.